Modern is a very exciting Magic the Gathering format. I enjoy playing it because there are so many available options. You can play nearly any combination of colors or lack thereof, even up to now including the Eldrazi colorless color. There's a lot of cards to pull from, and the state of the board makes it very obvious who's ahead and who's behind, which makes it a little bit appealing to fresher players with newer eyes. My name is Arthur Fusco. I'm playing a mono-blue Snapcaster Mage Delver of Secrets Thing in the Ice deck at Modern Grand Prix Indianapolis 2016. This deck is actually a work in progress, a long time coming. I started playing the mono-blue Ninja Delver Bear deck back when that deck was first conceived. I had all the cards for it the day that it was first put online. I built it right away, and I learned immediately that Disrupting Shoal is a card I wanted to play. This deck actually has just gradually evolved over time from that deck. It looks very different now, even though it's playing a lot of the same cards. The whole core of the deck is to make Disrupting Shoal as good as possible. There's sort of two aspects to this deck. One is a tempo element where you cast spells like Delver of Secrets and Snapcaster Mage and Vendilion Clique, and you back them up with counter spells and Vapor Snags, and you try to damage your opponent gradually to death. Yeah, there's a little bit of closing power in an old card called Psionic Blast that happens to be modern legal. There's also the control element to the deck. This deck plays a lot of counter spells. There's a Deprive and a Redirect on top of the Disrupting Shoals, Remands to help you get in the long game, 3 copies of Crypt Command, and obviously Snapcaster Mage that was a 4-of can flash back any of those. So this deck is actually capable of going long against some of the most controlling decks in Modern, such as Nahiri right now. The mana base consists of 2 Mutavaults, any 6 blue fetch lands, they're all identical in this deck, 9 basic islands, and 1 copy of Prairie Stream. I have a total of 14 creatures in my main deck and 2 in my sideboard. These creatures provide the what I've found to be the optimal balance of speed, tempo, and utility in Modern. Delver of Secrets, Thing in the Ice, and Snapcaster Mage each have the phrase instant or sorcery appearing on them, which gives them great internal synergy when you're playing all of these instants and sorceries that appear in the deck. Vendilion Clique has kind of the utility that we've become familiar with in Modern recently, and just happens to be an efficient beater at instant speed, which is very important. Since this is a Disrupting Shoal deck, you sort of need to have a good spread of blue spells at all converted mana costs that matter in Modern, specifically 1, 2, and 3. 4 also matters a little bit, but we won't entirely focus on that. I play 4 copies each of Serum Visions, Gitaxian Probe, and Vapor Snag. 2 of these cards are neutral on card advantage. They all can come out fairly quickly. They all trigger the instant and sorcery clause on all the relevant creatures, and they're extremely fast. You can do them right away in the game. At 2 converted mana cost, there's the Disrupting Shoals. You can exile them to themselves for countering 2 mana spells. I actually do that fairly frequently. And 4 copies of Remand, and also my 2 1-ofs. I have 1 copy of Deprive and 1 copy of Redirect. Those cards provide interesting utility, especially when you flash them back to get it again with a Snapcaster Mage. At 3 converted mana cost on top of Vendilion Clique, all I've got is 3 copies of Psionic Blast. Psionic Blast is great at closing out a game, and there's a lot of 3 mana spells such as Choke that you might be interested in countering. And then all the way up to 4 mana, I have 3 copies of Crypt Command. It's just debilitating. It can close games. Snapping it back is a disaster for nearly anyone. The sideboard consists of a handful of cards, most of which are designed to completely blow out certain strategies. That consists of 3 copies each of Commandeer and Hurkyl's Recall, and 2 copies of Hibernation. On top of that, I have Vedalken Shackles as a 3-of to close out creature-based matches. Any deck that wants to attack you with creatures mostly folds to that card. A 2nd copy of Redirect turns out to be very good against Burn, as well as decks with, say, Thoughtseize or Ancestral Visions. I also have 2 copies of Geist of St. Traft in the sideboard to close out matches with lots of targeted removal that can kill all of your other creatures. And then there's 1 copy of Jace Beleren, who is good at closing out attrition-style matches. This deck is very good at punishing people who are trying to do unfair things in Modern. Nowadays, one of the strongest matchups is actually Affinity. You have so many ways to Disrupting Shoal them on 2, which is where most of their important spells are. You get 3 copies of Hurkyl's Recall out of the sideboard, and the 4 copies of Thing in the Ice actually are really, really hard for them to answer. One of the things I like the most about this deck is that you take much, much less damage from your lands than nearly any other deck in the entire format. One way that you win against Burn with this deck is because they play with their own life total so much that you can actually just cast 1 or 2 creatures, trade them blow for blow, and then close the game out with a Psionic Blast. You can race a burn deck.